Hello and welcome to Creativity Uncovered. My name is Abby Gatling and I'm on a journey to uncover how everyday people find inspiration, get inventive and open their imagination. So basically, I want to get the lowdown on how people find everyday creative solutions for home, work, play and everything in between. And through this podcast, I'm looking to uncover a whole suite of tried and tested ways that you can use to summon creativity the next time that you need it. Now, today I'm speaking to Sasha Eburne. Sasha's a fellow Queenslander, a business owner and a coach, and she works in the virtual assistant or VA space. And I'm keen to hear about how creativity has impacted her life and how it relates to being a VA. So welcome, Sasha.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, my pleasure. And so, this podcast is all about creativity, but before we actually jump into that, I wanted to quickly talk to you about your career because, we've spoken in the past and you said you've worked in hospitality and wedding planning and freelancing, but now you're actually the owner of a VA agency and also you coach other people to scale their own VA agencies. That's right?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. Okay, so that's quite a journey.
It sure is, yeah.
A range of different roles there. So tell me, how did you move? Like, how did you get from weddings and hospitality into VA? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, so great question. And I guess after 20 years in hospitality events, predominantly in hotels, COVID happened. And like a lot of people around the world were heavily affected, and coming from the hospitality industry was essentially just shut down. I worked in the hotel that became the first quarantine hotel in the entire country.
Oh, wow.
So we were the first to go, and I worked in sales at the time, and obviously we didn't need sales because we became quarantine.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was probably only 3 or 4 months after going back from maternity leave as well. So hadn't really been back in the workforce for that long. And then COVID happened, stood down, and then did any number of things to keep going and keep afloat. And it was just by chance that I was doing body shop at home during the pandemic because we were all at home. So what better way to jump on a virtual body shop party and buy some body shop?
Oh, I didn't know they had virtual ones. That's cool.
They still do. Yeah. You don't have to go in. I think they still continue that post-COVID. And I went and met up with an old industry colleague to give her body shop and had coffee outside of the cafe because you couldn't sit in the cafe at that time. And I was like, what are you doing now? I know that, you got made redundant and all of these things. And she's like, oh, I'm a VA, and didn't really know what that was. And coming from, hospitality and events, I was just like, oh, if she could do it, I could do it. And jumped into a whole lot of Facebook groups that she invited me to, watch the space for about 6 months. And then I was EA to a director in a real estate firm and wasn't really enjoying, the office environment, 40 minutes to work every day, and just decided one night to jump on those groups to see if there was anything there, and found a couple of leads. I set my business up overnight and website in a couple of hours, and then within 24 hours I had my first client.
Wow, that's cool. I like that you saw the opportunity and went for it.
Just went for it, yeah.
Yeah. So what exactly is a VA, and what sort of type of things do you do?
Yeah, so it varies, and a virtual assistant predominantly is a self-employed person that provides a service remotely. And traditionally speaking, a lot of people start in this space by offering administration services, executive assistants, type of roles, email management, diary management, life admin. That's really a lot of where people start. Now we go well beyond that scope. We do a lot of digital marketing, content creation, website design. We support a lot of business coaches and, supporting their course creation on tech. Just, any number of things.
Many hats, it seems.
Yeah, it just kind of grows, and we grow with our clients as well. So if a client turns around and say, oh, I need help with this, generally it's something that we as a team can take on.
Yeah, wow, okay. And so now you're a business owner and you coach other business owners. Tell me, what's the difference between doing that and working in an industry that you've been working in for so long, being hospitality?
Yeah, I guess it gives me the option to be creative and just do things out of the norm. And working as an employee, working with different brands where you're so bound by the rules and the expectations, it's really great because now I can just do what I want, or if you want to change things tomorrow, you can. And it's just really about the flexibility to doing it in the way that we want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, do you think that's typical of being an employee, or do you think that's typical of being in hospitality itself? Like that sort of stay in your lane mentality, or this is the way we do it, don't change it?
Now that I'm so far out of the employee, I believe it's a traditional employer-employee type of relationship. I know that there's a lot more companies that it's a little bit better now since COVID, and a lot more you work your way wherever you want, all of that. I still feel that a lot of what they're doing is on someone else's terms.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think it's just straight to that industry. I think it's across the board in an employee scenario.
Yes, okay. And so now, when we spoke last time, you're talking about how it's such a joy to be creative in in your own business.
Yeah.
Did you think that is that something that you think you've been craving for a long time, that opportunity to be creative? And do you think that perhaps you could have tried to squeeze that out of hospitality, or do you think you had to make that jump into being your own business owner to get that opportunity? Or perhaps you
Yeah.
didn't even think that you wanted it, and now you've just on reflection feel like you like it. There's so many options for you to choose from, or any of the above.
I think it was probably more the initial one that you said. I think I always had that creativity inside of me, and I was always trying to break the mold. It would come time to create new packages for, the events department or things like that. And I would normally create it, but we would still have to deliver it to the marketing team. So I would try and put my creative spin on it before it would get to them, and then they'd have to brandize it and put their brand standards on it. So it's kind of like I was just still trying to buck the trend. And then in my freelance, well, I guess in both the hospitality and my freelance wedding career, is I did actually go and study wedding styling so I could really learn how to be a lot more creative with the psychology of color and how to really support a bride in being creative in her wedding and bringing the look and feel to life rather than just being that hotel person that just does the food and beverage. I wanted to be able to support them to actually create the bigger vision. So it's definitely always been in there, craving to come out.
Yeah. So how did you choose to do the wedding planning things? Like that seems like a kind of a nice little middle ground between where you are now and the hospitality. But do you have an interest in that area, or how did you choose that?
Yeah, so it kind of chose me. A lot of the hotels that we worked in, we did weddings in the hotel. So I was always interested in events, and then I was in a hotel and they're like, okay, well, you're going to start being our weddings person. And I'm like, this is so exciting. Like, I've just always been fascinated by weddings. I love them. They're beautiful, the romance, all of that. And then
such a happy occasion.
exactly. And then this just started, this whole big, amazing thing. And then even working in resorts, like it was so beautiful. Like I worked on Hayman Island and we did beautiful weddings. We used to go to Whitehaven on helicopters. So like it really I was delegated it, and then I was just like, this is just a whole new world for me because I just thought it was so beautiful. And then I wanted to take it to that next step. So that was freelancing as well as, when I was in the venue space as well.
Yeah, that's cool. What was like the most creative thing you were able to do in that role? Or was it just the freedom and, is it kind of like, is there a formula for weddings that people follow? Or is it sort of a blank piece of paper and the world's your oyster to be as creative and as lateral as you want to be?
Yeah, it's definitely the freedom to be as creative as you want to be. And I think when you're freelancing, you have a lot more say with the bride. When you're a venue coordinator, generally they already have a stylist or they have a wedding planner. So you're very much in the background and you are kind of in your own lane of the hotel. A lot of the events that I did, say when I was on Hayman or even when I was in Vanuatu, was events for the hotel. So I got to plan the 2000, I think it was 2020. No, was it? I can't even remember what year it was. Maybe 2011. New Year's Eve celebration for the entire resort on Hayman Island. So what that flow was. And that was, entertainment, that was music, stilt walkers, the design for the tables, because it was like a progressive kind of dinner throughout the entire resort. And that was really fun because there were no rules. It was just like you have to be able to entertain them, provide food and beverage, and have everybody have an amazing New Year's. So to get a really small brief like that and just to kind of make it whatever it's like. And then also when I was in Vanuatu, I did Christmas and New Year's there as well. So when you're doing events that are like ticketed events or for the resort, it's kind of like go for gold. Whereas if you're doing it for a client, obviously, it comes down to what the client wants.
Wow, that sounds so cool. Did you live in Vanuatu and all these places at the time? Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
I lived in the resort in one of the hotel rooms.
Oh, what was that like?
I could have housekeeping every day. It was nice. However, it was very difficult to switch off. Yeah. Because, you'd finish a wedding and you'd go back to your room, but the wedding would be happening on the beach in front of your room. So it's just like, are they
so you're still peeking out.
Yeah. And then like staff know that you live on site. So they're constantly calling you on your day off or, so it is quite intensive. And on Hayman, lived in the staff village.
Yeah. Wow.
Very similar as well. And they had, I think it was I can't remember what it was, but it was 1 week you would only have 1 day off, and then the following week you'd only have 2 days off. But being in events, if your day off was a day that one of your couple or your event clients were leaving, you had to go and take them to the boat. So it was kind of a 24/7 type of role as well.
Oh, wow. So that definitely was leading you into becoming a business owner where it's very hard to switch off.
Yeah.
So that seems to be like a really nice natural progression into the VA stuff, because you're wearing many hats, you're coordinating a bunch of different things, you're working with someone and you have to kind of know them intimately, I suppose, to be able to deliver to them. Do you think that there's been a crossover between that and your work now?
Yeah, definitely. And I think when it comes to, even sometimes we've done branding for some business coaches, they're like, oh, my portal where my courses are, it just looks old. We need a redo. So, we've jumped in to do that, and just to kind of come up with something when the business owner really hasn't given us any brief, to then share with them what we think the vision is, and for them to be like, oh my gosh, I could not have imagined what that would look like. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's mostly in the visual space that you're creative in your current role, or?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. It's a bit of both, which is great. So I do a lot of strategy with the clients, and that's kind of where another strong suit's coming out for me. And then I do have team that are really creative, but generally I have like the visual in my head, and I, portray that to them. I'm like, can you go away and create these graphics? And then kind of deliver on that. And it seems to work really well with the team, because even what they provide for me to deliver to the client is sometimes better than what I had in my head. It's kind of like the brains behind the idea, and then they go and do the work.
Yes.
Because, as a business owner, you have a lot less time and a lot less patience to sit there and put all the graphics together. So come up with it and somebody executes it.
That's half the battle, isn't it? It's, you come up with an idea, but being able to articulate it and take people on the journey with you to get that buy-in is certainly sometimes it's a struggle.
Yeah.
So that's been a learning experience for me as my team has grown. We're now a team of 4 at Crisp, and we do a lot of visual stuff. We do a lot of design and websites and things like that, but I've always been the one who's done the strategy and onboarding and all that type of thing. So I come up with the ideas, and trying to get the team on board and articulate what I want is sometimes hard when you don't work in the same state or even in the same country.
Yeah, exactly. You're learning a whole new normal doing it remotely.
Yeah. But I think it's here to stay. I feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also.
Someone asked me the other day, would I be getting an office for my team now? It's growing bigger and bigger, and I was like, I don't know. I kind of love working from home. I think they love working from home. Although I'd love to see them more often. I think there's other ways you can be creative and do that and get together and still build that connection outside of working together in a physical office.
Yeah, 100%.
Has that ever crossed your mind, or like whereabouts are your team located?
It has crossed my mind. And then I just think about the dollars relating to a space. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why would I have this ongoing extra cost when we all have these offices already?
Yeah.
And we can connect so often and so much. I do like the connection piece, because we do have a team in Sydney that I've never met in real life. I have a team member in Thailand, and she's just living there with her family, but she's from the Gold Coast, so I know her already. And then my business manager lives in Germany because we used to work together in a hotel in Abu Dhabi. So it's kind of like, even if I got a space, the whole team wouldn't be together. So if everybody was in Queensland, and it would make sense, I think, for community and collaboration potentially, but when not all of them are here, it seems pointless, because then it would only create a further divide with the people that are not in the state.
Yeah, that sort of halfway point of being half online, half not online is a hard one to balance. But I also like the idea of, if you're fully virtual, it means that you can, give opportunities to people that you've worked with and you know that you work really well together, from your past life. But also you're not limited just to the local community and the local skill set. You know, you're like, oh, I've got this person in Perth who's amazing. I would love to tap into their work.
Exactly.
That shouldn't limit their opportunities because they're not based in the same state as you.
I completely agree. In the past, I used to, when I was single, no child or any of that, I used to just move wherever for the jobs.
Yeah.
And then you get to a certain point in your life, you're like, done doing that. But now you actually don't have to. And I think it's great. I mean, my business manager, we've been friends for over 10 years. And the fact that we've worked together before as well. So I know that we've got that cohesiveness, that respect for each other, that we can separate work from business. And it just works really well. So why can't she work for me? I think it's really great that we have the opportunity to work together again, and we don't have to be in the same city.
Yeah. That's great. And so how do you manage collaboration and so you've got a business manager, I guess that is for growing the business BDM style, right? Or
not really. I mean, I think in the beginning, maybe that was the suggestion. She's really what we'd call an online business manager. Because she's kind of been with us from really early on, it's kind of morphed and grown, and, I just didn't want to change the title, but she's working really well in the digital space and the graphics and our social media. So we started having her sort of head up a lot of the social media. Oh, so that's kind of working for the moment. And I guess with that, it's not time specific, as in clients are not just sitting there, needing to pass work over. So the time difference doesn't have any effect on us. It's kind of like, well, we know that we need to deliver work by this date to then get checked, to then get posted out by this date. So it's more of a day timeline, which I think works really well. And we do have, I guess by 2 p.m, we kind of have a day crossover. So the time's not too bad.
So then if everyone's sort of separated out and she's doing social media for your business, or is she doing it for your clients?
She's doing it for the clients.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, like, how do you get consistency across the brand when you're in different time zones, different locations? How do you articulate that and stay cohesive?
Yeah, I guess by having the same person do it, for one, and having brand guides. Which, yes, it's kind of a flip side before, because I actually used to try and buck against those, brand guides and things like that. And I've got an implemented one for me. However, if the team were to be like, oh, I actually think this graphic might be good, and I'm open to that. Like, I'm rigid per se, as in, you need to use the same fonts and things like that. But I don't have you can only use this logo on this background. It's just, as long as it's clear, like, don't go and put a pink logo on a pink background because you won't see it. So as long as, initiative is being used and they can still be creative, I'm not that set in stone on mine. But however, with clients, we always make sure that we follow the client's brand guidelines, because that's what they're paying us to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. Like, I kind of made the distinction between a brand guidelines and brand Bible. And I think that if you are in a super corporate environment, perhaps hospitality, big chain of hotels, or for me, working, I've worked in the government, I've worked at universities, they're brand Bibles, as in they say it, you do
That's
it,
true.
and then
Yeah.
there is no leeway. Whereas brand guides, I feel, give you that flexibility to still come up with new ideas for the brand, flex your creative muscle, but you do it within those guides. The guides are fonts, colors,
Yeah.
imagery, tone, and I like that. That I feel like you should empower your team to still become creative and come up with their own ideas, because otherwise it's boring for them, it's boring for us, it's probably
Yeah.
boring for the audience or
Yeah.
the clients
Exactly.
as well, being like, did I read this one already? No. Oh, no,
Yeah.
that was the last one. Then it looks exactly the same.
It looks the same. Yeah. It needs to look different for, for people that are digesting the content as well.
Yeah,
For sure.
So jumping back again to creativity, because when you're talking about it, I can just see that you're coming alive.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, what is creativity to you, and like, how does it make you feel? What I can see that you're getting very animated.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't normally talk about it as much in this context, and it's probably, I guess, reminding me how much I do like it. And I think Canva has probably allowed us to have that creativity,
Mm-hmm.
and one has probably allowed me to be creative. And probably, especially in the beginning of business, I would never have so many different brochures, pictures, graphics, any of that, because I'd be paying somebody a lot of money to create these graphics. So I think that has allowed us to be creative and allowed us to bring it out of us as well. And it's, like I talked about, like I was kind of bucking against kind of letting it out before, and now it's just like, oh, this big huge explosion of creativity and color, and I like having the opportunity to, I guess, express myself in that. But also it's just like, how do I put my vision for my business out there to everyone to come and work with us as well? Because it's not just colors on the page. It's just like, well, that's emotions as well. And if you then talk about the psychology of color, well, how does that then sit with somebody else, and how do they receive the information that you're putting out because of the look and the feel? And it's, well, how does it make them feel? So I think then that's just putting a lot more emotion into the creativity and the design side of things.
Yes, I agree. I think there's so much more to design than just making something look lovely. There's so much thought that actually goes into it. And yeah, you mentioned Canva. I agree. Like, I was actually at a webinar, sort of like summit thing a couple of weeks ago. And the topic for designers and topic of Canva brought up, and the amount of all the eye rolls and like shudders and like, oh, and I was just thinking, I don't see an issue with it. I don't see an issue with Canva. I love the fact that it has enabled people to tap into this creativity that they have inside of them and do it easily and express themselves. I think that's great. I don't think it's taking away from traditional graphic design. I don't think it's taking away from the truly trained professionals in that space. It's a different offering for a different type of client.
I 100% agree. And even some things that I do, when I go for printing, I have to send it to my graphic designer because of the quality. And I can't, if it's something that's printed, like I wanted to get some notebooks printed and I wanted to get some t-shirts printed for my team, I can't export a vector file. So there are limitations to Canva that then allows you the fact to then go and use the resources of a graphic designer. And I think maybe this is the kind of pull that's happening in the business industry at the moment, is ChatGPT and all the copywriters being scared. 12 months, 24 months down the track, we're probably going to be in the same situation where, us as non-copywriters are going to have the use for ChatGPT, but when it comes to, talking about SEO and conversion and, highly skilled copywriting, then that's when you go and pay for a copywriter. So I feel like it's very similar, that I think everything still has its place.
Yeah. Are you using ChatGPT in your business at the moment, or is that sort of part of your longer term plan?
We use it for ourselves, like when I'm just throwing stuff together or I'm doing brochures and things like that, or if I'm doing my own website stuff. However, for clients, no. If clients are paying us to write, then we have our caption and copywriter writing it.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a place to work alongside with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's been brought up a few times on the podcast, that this sort of AI, what is the impact of it on creativity? But I think it's a starting point. Yeah. I think it's something to work alongside. But as you said before, it doesn't have the emotions, and it doesn't, the emotionality and the thought and the deep research behind some of the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Color selection, font selection, writing emotively for a client, getting the right tone for a particular client. Yeah. That's just something that, I mean, currently AI can't do. We'll see if it moves into that space, but I truly think that there's a space for humans to work alongside it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So do you think that, I know you found this opportunity to be creative in your current business. Do you think that everyone needs to be creative to run a business, or do you think it just kind of makes it a little bit more fun and more easy?
I personally think it makes more fun and easy. I think there's some people that don't believe that they have any creativity bone in their body. And maybe that's just because they haven't explored it, or they have no interest in it. And then that's where we talk about hiring for skills gaps. So if they have that gap and they have that block and they can't be creative and they don't know how colors are put together, then they can use the tech resources at play, or they can get support team or even hire a graphic designer for those things. And I guess the other benefit of hiring a graphic designer is a graphic designer can support somebody that isn't creative to actually draw everything out to then go and make the magic happen, so to speak. So they know what questions to ask to then go and create the outcome.
I love that you said skills gap just then. Like,
yeah,
it's such a business-minded thing, but it's true. It's true. I mean, that's why you outsource. Is like you either have skills gap or there's some type of deficit. That's why you outsource. Is like skills or time or money.
Do you want to sit there and go and learn it, or just pay somebody else to jump in and do it and get it done quicker?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, okay. Well, that's really interesting. So, tell me about you. Like, when you're trying to be creative, sounds like you've got a lot of opportunities in your business to do that. What are some things that you do to get into the mindset to allow you to be creative?
I think it's probably morphed and changed over time. And I think it's more about, one, probably a lot of pictures that maybe I've seen in the past of, oh, that looks great, and then kind of putting my own stamp on it. But now it's very much about knowing how it's going to land for the client. And then it's kind of like when you talk about copy, you want to talk to your ideal audience. When I create designs now, I'm just like, well, how will that person receive it? And what is it going to make them feel? Because it needs to resonate with what you're putting out. So if you're talking about, say, business coaching, it needs to kind of give them the feel of the transformation that they're going to get when they jump into business coaching. If it's more about services, how is it going to make them feel knowing that, all of the stuff on the list and the graphics is going to take them to the spot where they don't have to worry about it. So I think there's a lot of that kind of comes into it. And it's very much about how is it going to make them feel in the transformation? Whereas before it was probably like, it just looks good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you, what's your brainstorming technique like? Do you have one? Like for me, when I come against a problem that I can't do, I take a walk, or I turn my mind off it to then it will come to me when I least expect it.
I find that if I get a bit of a block, I just ask the team.
Ask your team. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just like, I know I want this, but I don't know what I want it to look like. Can you give it a go? And then 9 times out of 10, it comes back. I was like, that's not what I was thinking, but I love it. Let's go with that.
That's good. Harnessing the brain power of your team.
Just using everyone's creativity, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Are you constantly surprised when things come back and you're like, that is better than I could do, or that's different and I love it?
I'm just like, why did I even spend my time thinking about it?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
totally. I've thought that several times throughout the last couple of years since I've had a team. Like in the past, I probably would have been really prescriptive about what I want done. And then now over time, I'm just like, no, you've got the skills for this. I'm just going to say what I want to achieve. How you get
Yeah.
there is up to you. And I am constantly surprised and amazed and impressed by what comes back to me. It's just, I find it very exciting.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's even better because sometimes you could sit there and overthink it and you could give them the list and list and list, and then it comes back and like, it just hasn't hit the mark. I find more often than not when I don't give a brief, that's when it's way better than I could imagine.
Wow. Okay.
So it's safe sitting there and overthinking
it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure there's another 1,000 things that are on your to-do list.
It's a never-ending to-do list.
Yeah. So now that you've found yourself being more creative at work, has it inspired you to do creative things outside of work?
It has. It's at the moment a lack of time. But there's a lot of other, like, I see it all the time on people's Instagrams, like pottery classes or the sip and paints. My friend went and did a sip and paint the other day and she painted a turtle. And I'm like, this looks really good. I think I would love to go and do that. So yeah, definitely there's a lot more of that I'd like to do. And I think it's probably more of a, start scheduling it in my diary at least once a month just to kind of get that creative outlet going.
Yeah, I feel like that's been a theme on a couple of these episodes, is that once people get a taste for it, they are trying to seek out other opportunities. Obviously, time is a factor when you're running a business, but once you start being creative, you're like, oh, I need more. Insatiable.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So last question for you. What would you recommend for others who say that they want more creativity in their life or in their career and they're not necessarily getting it at the moment?
I think do the things that we just spoke about. Go and try new things. I mean, new experiences are great, even if they're not even if they're not creative. Anything outside of the norm. Even just, Google unusual things that you can do on weekends and things like that. You'll be surprised, how creative you can be with that. And even just jump into Canva. And even before I was in business, when I found out about Canva, I was always designing like my birthday invitations or, going to other websites to do those. So, when things come up in your life, just be creative. Or if you're going to do a Facebook event, create a really cute banner for your birthday or someone's baby shower, or even, for other people's baby showers, I've created, really nice, like the quizzes that you do and things like that.
Yes.
So just kind of incorporate that into your own life, and you don't always have to go and buy the pre-created pads of paper that you can do, and you can do it all yourself.
Yeah, cool. So try new things and look for opportunities to be creative.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Sasha. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
No, not a problem. And also a big thank you to everyone who has tuned in to listen to Creativity Uncovered today. I really hope that this episode has inspired you to try something new if you just aren't being fulfilled currently with your creativity. And as always, I really hope that this discussion has helped you summon your creativity the next time that you need it. Until next time, thanks so much for listening. If you've made it this far, a huge thank you for your support and tuning into today's episode. Creativity Uncovered has been lovingly recorded on the land of the Cubby Cubby people, and we pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This podcast has been produced by my amazing team here at Crisp Communications, and the music you just heard was composed by James Gatling. If you liked this episode, please do share it around and help us on our mission to unlock more creativity in this world. You can also hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episode releases.